So, good evening, folks. Welcome to our Master of Education, Learning Design, and Technology webinar this evening, our live Q&A. So thank you for spending this evening with us. And just to give everyone a heads up here who's attending here today, this session is meant to be a little bit more intimate. We really want you all to engage. I know for a lot of you who've registered today, I've met at some point through one-on-one appointments. So definitely use this opportunity to ask Dr. Diamond, who we have here with us today, really any in-depth questions that you might have about the program, about the curriculum. And hopefully we can get you some really good and clear answers as you kind of move forward with your application. This session is being recorded, and I will be sharing it out with everyone who's registered here today, so you can always reference back to it. But I'm going to go ahead and allow Dr. Diamond here to introduce himself. And before he does that, another thing that I wanted to mention was that we've had several webinars throughout this fall semester, right? So we've had general info, very in-depth info webinars about the program. We had an in-class experience webinar as well. So this is kind of the third one this fall, and it's really just an opportunity to really ask any questions that you might have. Now, I do understand, right, that some of you joining us tonight, maybe this is the first time you're engaging with us, and if that's the case, we are going to be giving just a brief overview of the program before we get into the Q&A. So if after the event you want a recording of those webinars, right, just send us an email here in the admissions office, and I'll be more than happy to send you the recording of those past webinars. So with all that being said, I don't want to take too much time because we have a lot of great questions to get through. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Diamond.
Thanks, Eliel. Hi, everybody. My name is Jim Diamond. I am the program director for the Learning Design and Technology program here at the Johns Hopkins School of Education and a faculty member for the past 7 going on 8 years. I'm very excited to be here with all of you tonight. I think I've met 1 or 2 of you before, either through a webinar or via emails. So I'm happy to have you back. I'm happy to have opportunities to take questions and answer them as I can, or do my best to find answers to your questions if I don't have them at my fingertips. So this slide is a little bit about me. I'm not going to repeat it. I will just say very broadly, I've worked in the field of instructional systems design, educational communication, and technology for going on about 20 years now. Much of my career was focused on the area of K-12 technology integration. I worked for many years in a research and development center in New York City, working with classroom teachers to either develop technologies to use in the classroom or to help them learn how to use technologies in the classroom. I've been here, as I say, for 7 going on 8 years. Most of my scholarship for much of my career was in the area of game-based learning. Over the past 2 to 3 years, that's been shifting into AI and education, which I think is true of many in the field of instructional technology. So at the moment, I'm doing a lot of thinking, a lot of writing, a lot of proposal writing on investigating the role of artificial intelligence, specifically generative artificial intelligence, in K-12 and in higher education. I'm especially interested in artificial intelligence as a dialogue partner. So thinking about how AI will ultimately become something like a co-pilot, or whatever metaphor you want to use, to help people explore new areas, to help them improve their competencies in problem solving and critical thinking, and just more broadly to investigate AI as a tool to expand creativity. So that's, I think, enough about me. We're going to talk, as Eliel said, a little bit about the program. but then much of the time will be open for your questions. So LDT is an online master's degree program, 10 courses, 30 credits. It's brand new. Its predecessor program, Digital Age Learning and Educational Technology, was here in the School of Education for many years online. We took it offline, meaning we sunsetted the old program and really reconceptualized it. Coincidentally with the advent of generative AI. So as AI was starting to take the world by storm, starting to become increasingly influential in formal educational settings, the school made a decision to rethink its educational technology program, and we relaunched as Learning Design and Technology. So we went from what was previously a program focused primarily on K-12 technology integration to go much more broadly now, to really go expansively into the world of adult education, people working in multiple industries, interested in the fields of learning experience design, AI and education, learning engineering, and other spaces. So we are currently in our first year with our first cohort of master's degree students. We have about 30 master's degree students currently online who are working in many different fields and who are living in many different places geographically, but all broadly are somehow engaged in education and training. So this is a program for people who are interested in instructional design, instructional technology, data-driven learning, as you can see, technology leadership. So we are increasingly focused in developing a curriculum that seeks to prepare people to go into educational organizations and help create visions for the use of technology, not just for the use of artificial intelligence, but more broadly, the use of digital technologies in supporting educational functions in organizations, and then helping manage change within those organizations. Because digital technology continues to be so transformative and change continues at such a rapid pace that we are focused on preparing graduates to go into the world and to lead that change, and to do so in a deeply informed, grounded in the learning sciences way, to do so in a deeply responsible and ethical way. The program, just go back one more sec. Sorry, Elio. I was just taking a breath. One more thing that I will say is that educational technology is a very broad and diverse field. And by that, I mean it tends to draw people from many different academic backgrounds, many different industries, many different interests. And it is one of the more remarkable things about this field is that you have opportunities to learn alongside and work alongside people who come from many, many different areas. And that's true, as I say, for the current program. We have people who've been classroom teachers. We have people who are currently working as professional instructional designers. We have people who are currently working as occupational therapists and physical therapists and nurses. People who are leaders within their organizations, people who already have doctoral degrees in their fields, but are now wanting to come back and pursue a graduate education in order to deepen their knowledge about the learning sciences and about the use, the design and use of tools and technologies to support learning. So I think it's one of the more important things to know about this field, and indeed one of the more important things to know about our program, because it is a real strength and it is a real advantage to be learning alongside people who are coming from so many different places. Okay, Eliel, now we can move. Thanks. Very quickly, the program requirements, as I say, it's a 10 course, 30 degree, 30 credit master's degree program. There are two foundation courses, Learning Sciences Studio and Critical Perspectives on Technology, which are taken in the first 2 semesters of the program. There are two research methods courses required. The first is Introduction to Social Science Research. The second is Program Evaluation, also taken in the first 2 semesters for part-time and full-time students. Then you'll have 3 courses in your specialization. The program launched this fall with its first specialization, which is Learning Experience Design, and you can see the 3 course titles listed there. In fall 2026, we expect to launch our 2 other specializations. So AI Leadership in Education and Learning Analytics, but is probably ultimately going to be called Learning Engineering for the specialization. Those 2 specializations, the curricula are still under development as we speak. You'll be able to take 2 elective courses, either in the program or in the School of Education or at other divisions of Johns Hopkins, provided those programs are open to students taking courses from outside of a program. You can take those courses as electives in consultation with your academic advisor. You just need to do some thinking about how a course relates to your professional learning objectives and then in the program's learning objectives. And then you will finish with a capstone course, either in the fall of 2026 or fall of 2027. We have not determined yet. There will also be a thesis option. So a capstone project is a more traditional master's degree culminating project in which you may design or even develop and implement an intervention for an educational setting. So you are addressing a specific problem of practice. A thesis, when that option becomes available, is a more traditional research project where you would write a proposal, conduct a piece of research, and then do a write-up. Often, not always, but often students who are interested in going on to do doctoral work following their master's degree will take a thesis option. Okay, we can move on. This is you, right, Eliel?
Okay. Yep. I'll give you a break here. So I'm going to talk real briefly about the admission application process and requirements. So for this program specifically, right, we do look at academic performance, but then we also do consider the essay, 2 letters of recommendation, and then the resume. We will need official transcripts from all your post-secondary institutions that you've attended. So all these items that you see there on the left side are going to be requirements in order for you to be considered a complete applicant and ready for review. We don't require or really don't even take any GRE exams. So hopefully that makes it a little bit easier on your end to submit a complete application. There is an $80 application fee, so just be aware of that. For any international applicants, or if you have a background of completing a degree outside of the US, just be aware that we do require a course-by-course evaluation from all of your post-secondary institutions that you've attempted or completed degrees in. If that is the case, I would always encourage you to start that process early. Typically, these agencies will take about 2 to 3 months to get that completed. So if you are thinking about, starting here in the fall of 2026, I would probably encourage you to start requesting those course-by-course evaluations within the next few weeks, so that way you have ample time to get this completed. The other piece that we do require for any international students who are completing this program is proof of English language proficiency. So we do require an exam for that specifically, either through TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo. And you can see the scores on our website. If you go directly to our website under international admissions, you will find very specific details about the agencies that we take a course-by-course evaluation, such as WES, EZE, SpanTran, right? There's a few others. And then you'll see the scores for the English proficiency exam. If you've completed 4 years or your bachelor's degree outside of the US and at that institution, the main language of instruction was English, you do have the opportunity to apply for a waiver for the English proficiency requirement. Or if you've completed at least 2 academic years in the United States at a US college, university, you can also apply for that waiver. If you have any questions, feel free to send us an email. I know a lot of times those instances or those scenarios, have a lot of detail that you may need some guidance in. But that's kind of like the general admissions requirements. Timeline for this program specifically, the application is live and the deadline isn't until July 15th, 2025. But with that being said, I would really encourage folks, if you feel like this is going to be a good fit for you, I would start your application as soon as you can. Just so you have ample time to get everything in, letters of recommendation, right? You will go through the review process, and hopefully, if it is an offer of admission, right, then we can kind of begin talking about more in depth of cost, right? Meeting with our financial aid office. And once you feel like this is going to be a good fit for you for the fall of 2026, right, then you would be able to go in and accept your offer of admission and be ready to register for classes. So that's what I'm going to say, right, in terms of the deadline and the application. Classes typically will start around mid-August. I think the timeline that I have here is from last year. I forgot to update that, so I apologize for that. But the months are correct, just not the exact dates for August 25th. But around middle to end of August of 2026 is when we will be starting classes for the fall. Typically, we do an orientation the week before classes start. It's typically online synchronous for a few set of hours, and it's facilitated through Jim and some other folks, or Dr. Diamond and some other folks here at the School of Education. So cost-wise, again, just real briefly here, folks, cost per credit, you're looking around 1,140 per credit. If it is an online degree, you are going to want to add an additional $20 per credit tech fee. So if you are coming to this program part-time or taking 6 credits, right, you will see an estimated, for 2 semesters of approximately 14,270. If you're coming full-time, 9 credits, right, for the fall and spring semester, you're looking at approximately around $21,230. So you can find this on our website. We also do offer scholarship opportunities. They are partial merit based. You do have to apply for them directly. The deadline for that scholarship is going to be March, I believe March 14th of 2026. And it's specifically called the SOE, or the School of Education Endowed Scholarship. So as you kind of start your application, within the next few weeks, get that submitted, meet with our financial aid office. They're more than happy to connect with you one-on-one through Zoom, go over, potential funding buckets, scholarship opportunities, get those applications completed. And that hopefully should put you in a good place once you get an offer of admission to make a decision based on what's best for you. So we kind of want to go right into the Q&A. And if you have questions about the admissions process or the cost, feel free to add those in the questions. A lot of you did submit really good questions as part of the registration form. So we're going to use those questions to kind of kick off this conversation. But please, if you have questions, feel free to use the Q&A function. This is, again, a very small, kind of intimate webinar group. So if you feel comfortable enough, right, I'm more than happy to give you access to your microphone. So if you want to ask your question, give us some context about where you're coming from, right, like, more than happy to do that. But we'll go ahead and get started. So the first question, Jim, and this might be good, just since, right, we're into the first cohort of learning design and technology, right? It's an asynchronous program. Um, so one other question is, how does this program foster connection between students and leaders in the learning technology field? Is this especially challenging because of the online asynchronous format?
Okay, so thanks for the question. Um, so let me work backwards. Is this especially challenging because of the online asynchronous format? Interestingly, I would say the online asynchronous format actually makes it easier in some ways because most of our students, well, all of our students are online and learning asynchronously, right? And are enculturated in such a way in the program and in the school that communication is almost completely online, right? So we communicate just as we do in our work days via email, via Zoom sessions like this. And people meet one another. People meet new people in different online spaces. Now, that can be through a course. That can be through something like a semester long seminar. That can be through standalone um, talks given by people from different institutions or industry leaders, all of which are good opportunities to meet new people, to expand your networks. People are introduced to leaders in the field through faculty members. So as you take courses and as you get to know your instructors, or you don't need to get to know them especially well, you just email them and arrange to have a discussion, and you start to explore your interests, and that gives them the opportunity to think about who you might be able to connect with in their extended network. Now, as the program is growing, so we have several things in the works, as does the school, as a matter of fact. So, particularly in the area of AI and education, we are planning several events, some face to face, some online, in which there will be opportunities for faculty, students, and others outside of the school to come together and talk about, in this case, AI and education and work that they're doing. So those are opportunities for people to meet as well. The school has a career services office. The university has a career services office, both of which are used to interacting and engaging with and facilitating connection making for students in the online space. So with our current cohort of students, this is it's already beginning. We already have students who are engaging with instructors to explore networks. The other one, another way that will become more active beginning next summer is when we begin to launch our experiential education component. So students in the program will have an opportunity to take up to 6 credits in internship, in online internship. You're not required to be in person for these internships. And there's a couple of things going on with these experiential education sites. One of them is for you as a graduate student to deepen the knowledge that you are exploring in courses, but then to apply that more directly into an internship. And you may be doing that already in your work as well. So that's one piece of the internship. But the other is for you to extend and expand and explore your professional networks, right? So when we enter into discussions with an internship site, we're not only looking to ensure that there are either projects or tasks that are immediately related to the competencies that we are helping our students develop. That has to be present. But there's also an understanding that part of this, again, is to help you expand your network, either by meeting other people within the organization in which you're doing the internship, or connecting with others in their networks, right? So there are many, many opportunities to do this And being online and being at a distance is not much of an impediment.
Thank you, Jim. So we did have a question come in through the Q&A function, and I think it's speaking to the flexibility of the degree, right? So you're right. I'll read the question. Can part-time students still work a full-time job? And can full-time students take more than 9 credits and complete the program earlier? So I'll start this off. The second piece there, Dr. Diamond, you might be able to better answer, but the degree itself is meant for a working professional, right? And even through the application process, right, like we do like to see some form of at least early work professional experience, right? Early leadership experience. Uh, and we keep that in mind, right? So as we're admitting students, or we admitted students and started this program in the fall, right? A lot of the candidates that came through were working professionals that typically work through the day or sometimes work in the evenings. And the fact that this degree is asynchronous, meaning that you are doing your courses really at your own time and own pace, allows for that flexibility for you to complete this degree. So, part-time students, I will say, probably can work full-time, right? And it's probably what we're seeing. In terms of can full-time students take more than 9 credits, I want to lean towards no, but Jim, maybe I'm wrong there. Or if you want to give some
It's
insight on
very,
that
very
part.
unusual. It's extremely unusual. It's not you would ultimately need my approval to do it. And I would very rarely would I be inclined to give somebody permission to take 4 courses in a semester. At the graduate level, even if you're not working, it's extremely challenging to take 12 credits in the course of a semester. And one thing we absolutely do not want to do is set students up to fail or set students up to be overwhelmed very, very quickly. So I would never do it in the first semester. And I would be, again, it's rare that I would approve a student to take 4 courses over a semester. It's just not wise. Of course, you want to get done. The master's degree is a means to an end, probably multiple ends, but you have to succeed. And you have to demonstrate to yourself and to us that you're developing these competencies as you're going, and that does take a little bit of time. Yeah. So we do have students who take 3 courses in a semester. And at some point, if any of you would like to meet or speak with a current student, we can certainly arrange for that. And you could certainly speak with a student who we would consider to be full-time, which is somebody taking 3 courses, but there's not many of them, right? The majority of our students are taking 2 courses a semester and are full-time working professionals. And it's a lot. It's a lot to be working full-time and to be taking 2 graduate courses, particularly at an institution like this that has very high expectations for its students and very high expectations of its instructors. So just at the risk of repeating myself, you would be well advised, and I would advise you to go part-time. If you were considering full-time, which you can do, I would cap it at 3 courses a semester. So you would basically be done in a year. Did that answer the question?
No, no, I think it did. And if you did want to follow up with that for the individual that put that in, feel free to use the Q&A function again. And if we didn't clarify, I'm more than happy to do so. So I'll answer one of the next questions that we received here in the registration, and it's specifically tied to the application process, right? So the question is, do you have application tips for applicants who have been out of school for 5 or more years? So the first thing that I want to say, right, is that you should go in with confidence, right? I think and we're kind of having this conversation about what our current class looks like and what this degree is really meant for, right? It is very common to find applicants or candidates into this program who are separated between 3 years, 5 years, sometimes even more from the last time that they were at an undergraduate or another master's program.
Mhm.
So that is very common. So for if the person who asked that question, if you're here with us this evening, trust me, like you are fitting right into what our typical candidate profile looks like. In terms of what we would give advice to make yourself more competitive, right? One, right, is really taking your time with the personal statement, right? At the graduate level, especially here at Hopkins, we want to assure that there is an alignment between what the program offers, right, and what the career objectives are, and with what your career plans are. So as you work through your essay, revisit these webinars, revisit our website, and really kind of thoughtfully write that essay and make it very detailed and very direct. The letters of recommendation, and maybe this is where the concerns about being 5 years separated from your undergrad or another master's program, right? The letters of recommendation, we only require two. We don't specify, right, if they have to be too professional or too academic based. I think ideally, if you can get a blend of an academic based recommendation and a professional recommendation, that would be ideal. But also kind of understanding your own situation, right? So if it's been 5 years, 10 years, or more from your undergrad, it might not make a lot of sense, right, to reach out to a former faculty member unless you've been having coffee with them, throughout the years and they still know you very well. If that's the scenario, then I would, and Jim, you can add input on here, but I would probably go with folks that know you very well, right? That you trust, that are going to write you a very strong letter of recommendation, right? And if it's relevant, right, to the program from a professional perspective, that would have even greater value. Would you agree, Jim, with
Mhm.
kind of
Yes.
that? Yeah. So that's with the letters of recommendation. The resume, again, just be super detailed, quantify aspects of your resume. There isn't a length requirement or cap for the resume CV, so use that to your advantage. Unlike the essay, typically it does have either a page count or a word count. But yeah, again, I think this program is meant for a working professional. So 5 years separated from your last academic pursuit is fine, right? And just go with it with confidence. Um, So we'll move on there to our next question. Let me just pull it up. Um, so Jim, for the course curriculum, what tools, software, or technical skills will students be expected to use? For example, UX design tools, e-learning, authoring tools, or analytic platforms.
So all of those things you will be expected to use over time. We don't have any expectations for you to come in with any skills in any of those areas. So we don't have any expectations for you to come in with the ability to use online course development apps, for example. We don't have any expectations about your ability to build online courses in learning management systems. We don't have any expectations about your skills in videography or post-production or in customizing GPTs for generative AI, nor do we have any expectations for using different analytical tools coming in. Now, if you have them, great. Um, Now, as you go through the program, and especially as you go through your specialization courses, you will be expected to begin using some of those tools. Um, the degree to which you use them will vary from course to course. Each instructor will have different requirements, but those requirements will always be clear. And again, there will never be assumptions about you having expertise in a particular app or family of applications to do any kind of development work in this program. Nor is it a requirement that you graduate with a specific set of competencies in using those tools, right? That's not the focus of the program. These tools are ancillary. You must develop, frankly, um, some set of skills in these areas, and you'll work with your specialization instructors to determine which ones where you might want to focus. The program is we are currently in the process of doing one of two things. One is creating 1 credit modules that will focus specifically on the use of certain applications, or the alternative to that may be to give students opportunities to take online continuing education or what would be considered non-degree, non-credit courses outside of the program, and then bring them in for 1 credit up to 3 credits. So it is something that as the program continues to grow, we will actually bring into the formal curriculum. The last thing I'll say is you are not expected to be a coder, right? So if you ultimately wind up going into the AI leadership specialization, you are not expected to have expertise in Python to pick one. Although in that case and in that specialization, there actually will be a Python boot camp that's associated with one of the courses in the School of Engineering where you would be taking a course. The Introduction to Generative AI course has a Python boot camp that is designed for people who have no background in coding, no background in computer science, no expertise in computer programming. So there are aspects of that there. And then also in the learning engineering specialization, those requirements will also become clearer in that particular strand of courses. There probably will be a requirement, again, not for you to come in with, but for you to leave with. There probably will be some sort of programming requirement, some sort of requirement with respect to learning analytics and using different tools for the purposes of learning analytics. I say probably because, as I mentioned, that those 2 curricula for both of those specializations are still currently under development. If you're thinking about those specializations, you can come back to us in the early spring. I'm sure we'll be doing more of these, and you can ask me again specifically about tech or programming requirements for those specializations.
Great, thanks, Jim. So the next question, I guess, speaks a little bit to the profile of candidates, right? So I think this first cohort that we saw, we have a partnership with Kennedy Krieger Institute, so we saw a lot of employees from Kennedy Krieger Institute come into this program. I know there were a lot of individuals who were coming from teaching in the classroom and were looking to pivot into instructional design. But the question that we got here through the registration form is, how does a background in ed tech factor into success into this program? So, Jim, I don't know if you have any insight or any current students that maybe do have a background in ed tech and how you see them. How do you see them performing in the program itself?
So having a background in ed tech carries an advantage, I would say, in this way, right? So one, you have, I think, just a broader vision of the digital technology world, and specifically in the area of education. So if you're coming from some way in either working as an ed tech professional, working as a classroom teacher who may have lots of experience using digital technologies, you will come in really, again, with sort of a deeper understanding and a deeper vision of the tools and technology supported environments that are out there in the world already, right? As opposed to some people, and that's true, we have some people currently in the program who did not come in with a background in ed tech. And it takes a little bit more work for them to begin familiarizing themselves with tools, right? And thinking about how those tools support learning, how they were designed to support learning, or how they were designed badly and are not supporting learning. So it is an advantage in order, as I say, really just to have a broader view of the educational technology field. It will be advantageous in the class in multiple classes. But what I'll add there too is, again, this is not a requirement, right? We are not expecting people to come in with backgrounds in educational technology, and it's interesting. It's come up among several of our students in the first semester who have raised this issue of not necessarily having a great deal of experience with educational technologies, using educational technologies, developing them, evaluating them. And so what we are in the process of doing, and that will certainly be live by fall 2026, is we are curating a set of example tools and call them instructional videos, really overviews of these tools, how people are using them in different settings. You would not be required, it doesn't require you to have licenses for these tools, but just a curated set of videos and instructional resources such that you could turn to them and start to look a little bit more deeply into how technologies are used, how they're developed, how they are integrated into many, many different settings and different sectors and fields, and then how they're evaluated as well. So what this will ultimately look like is something like an online library that'll be part of the program community site, and that you would just as a student be able to go into and start familiarizing yourself with different examples of technologies.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Mhm.
So we'll go ahead and I saw a question came through the webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and read that one. I'm going to read it carefully, but Jim, you can also see it on your end, I believe.
I can't
So
see
what
actually.
would, oh, you can see it? Okay. So there's a lot to it. So I'm going to put it in the chat box. I'm going to read it just for the audience, but I'm also going to send it to you, Jim, so you have it, just so you can prepare a response. But again, for the audience, it's what would you say
Mm.
is one of the primary differences between the learning design technology previous iteration, the digital age learning program, versus how it stands now? I know one aspect that you mentioned is the evolution of generative AI and how it's affected classes, but what else has been modified over its predecessor? So really good question, and it sounds like you've been to a former webinar from us, so that's always really good to see. But yeah, Jim, you want to take a few
Yeah,
seconds to gather your thoughts?
I'm just quickly taking notes. So every aspect of the program has changed. Yeah. So starting with its intended audience, right? So the program's previous incarnation, DALIT, Digital Age Learning and Educational Technology, was really a program that was designed for K-12 teachers and either school or district leaders, most of whom were looking to stay in the classroom, some of whom were looking to leave the classroom, but most of our graduates over the years ultimately remained in the classroom. So this program is a fundamental shift from that population. Now, we still have K-12 teachers, but they are in the minority now. Not by design. It's not my intention to prevent K-12 educators from coming into this graduate program, but it is my intention to have a program that is designed, again, for people who are looking across many, many, many sectors, right, beyond K-12. So that's one piece. The entire curriculum has changed. So we were previously a 12 course, 36 credit master's degree program. We are now a 10 course, 30 credit master's degree program. That is sequential in nature, which is also a change. So previously, the degree really did not require you to take courses in sequence. Now you are very much taking courses in sequence in this program, starting with the foundations and the research methods courses, and then taking the specialization courses in sequence. And that's design is very intentional, right? So that these courses are building off of one another, so that by the time you come to the culminating course within your specialization, the third course in the specialization, we expect that you have some level of mastery in this area, and that you are prepared to go beyond what we would consider foundational knowledge and foundational applications, to think more deeply, particularly in the area of leadership, and particularly in the area of implementation at the organizational level. So the curriculum is designed sequentially so that you are moving in that way, which is quite a change from the previous program. Previous program had no formal experiential education component. That is, there was no formal internship component to the previous program. It is now very much a part of the relaunched program, and indeed integral to the program. We are already having some discussions internally around whether we may ultimately require an experiential education component, as opposed to leaving it as an elective option. For the foreseeable future, certainly for fall 2026, it will remain an elective option. But we are aware as a faculty and as a school of the growing importance of students having opportunities to connect what they're doing in their graduate education to the workplace, and doing so immediately, and doing so in a structured way, ideally, which is what an experiential education component here allows. The last thing that I will say is that the program, in terms of its ethos, has shifted toward a more entrepreneurial approach to educational technology. And this goes back to the population that we are seeking to serve. So it was relatively rare, not unheard of, but relatively rare, that we would have students come into our program who were thinking about going and starting their own businesses, for example. It happened. I would say we typically would average one student a year who would go on to start a business in some way. What we are doing with the current specialization and the next two specializations are really looking to create a site that draws people who may have a vision for the role of technology in education, but may not have a background in education, may not have a background in the learning sciences, and may not have had opportunities to meet and network with people with other sets of expertise, right? So when the AI leadership specialization rolls out, you will now have more formal opportunities to interact with engineering students and members of the engineering faculty. The same is true for when the learning engineering specialization rolls out. And this is very intentional, right? For several reasons. One, the expertise of the faculty members in those schools is world-class and unbeatable in terms of just the depth of knowledge and practical experience that they have, that we are seeking to develop for our own students. But the purpose here is to cultivate an entrepreneurial environment, right? Where people who are coming in with ideas, thoughts about change they might like to see, thoughts about tools they might like to develop, and we're really trying to expand the opportunities that our students have to see these to fruition, right? Now, there's a lot more to be said about that, but I won't get too concrete about it, and in specifically because, as I say, these specializations are under development. And so we are figuring out these pieces as we go. And again, it's I'll say what I said earlier, which is, you can come back in the spring, or you can contact me in the spring, and I'll have I will have more concrete information to share along those lines. But I think those the curriculum, the sequencing, the experiential education, and the focus on cultivating entrepreneurship are a significant change from the previous program. So I'm just looking this to see. Did I answer that question, Elio?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Sweet. So thanks, Jim. So folks, we do have about 9 minutes left. So if you have any remaining questions, right, go ahead and start plugging them in. We probably have time for two or three more. One of the questions that I've received is specifically, and I talked a little bit about it earlier about the deadline, right? So the deadline for the application is July 15th of 2026. So the question is, are there advantages, right, to applying early? So I think for this program specifically, I would always encourage you to start your application as soon as possible. Just from my experience of working in the admissions office, right, there are potential hiccups that could come up, right, and you want to give yourself ample time to correct any documents that we need. Letters of recommendation, I typically also see take a little bit longer to get completed, right? And if you want to give your recommender enough time to write you a really strong letter of recommendation, starting early is key. The other piece that I would probably also say is just positioning yourself, right, as a candidate, as an applicant. Um, First of all, right, to get a decision early, but also to be reviewed for scholarship opportunities. So as I mentioned before, we do have what we call a SOE, School of Education Endowed Scholarship pool of money. Applicants to LDT can fill out that application. We do require typically a FAFSA along with that application form. That deadline isn't until spring, March 14th, I believe, 2026. But if you get that completed right and you do get a decision, that is going to put you in a better position to be reviewed for scholarship opportunities. For myself, right, I typically tell applicants July 15th seems like it's far away, and it is far away, right? So it's next summer. But really, that deadline there is meant for individuals who come across our program in the spring semester. So I think up to this point, we've had really great webinars starting in, I think, August. Up until today, right, with a lot of really great candidates. So start early, right? Start that process early. We'll continue more webinars in the spring, and I think we'll probably engage current students in the program in these webinars in the spring semester here, and try to be a little bit more creative to give everyone here kind of a more in-depth experience of the program. But that's what I would say, right, in terms of are there advantages to applying early? So I'm going to move on to another question that is probably going to be a good fit as kind of a closing question. But again, if you do have questions, use the Q&A function. So Jim, this is specifically tied to career outcomes, professional pathways, right, for folks or for candidates who complete the program successfully. So what roles do graduates typically move into after completing this program? Do they stay in teaching, right, professions, or do they transition into areas such as edtech, curriculum design, coaching, or learning design? It's probably a combination of a lot of those, but I'll let you kind of respond, right, in terms of what you are expecting this program to prepare people in terms of a career after they
Yeah.
complete the program.
So it is a combination of a lot of those things. I mean, one thing to know, obviously, is we don't have any graduates of the current program because we've just launched, right? So this really is a question about where we expect to see graduates go. However, we are not completely disconnected from the previous EdTech program, right? So we can say that some people do stay in the classroom. Some people leave the classroom and go on to take leadership positions either at the district or state level. Some people leave K-12 altogether and go on to take instructional design and technology positions in nonprofits or in industry. Some people have gone on to become multimedia producers. Some people have gone on to become curriculum developers within publishing houses, large and small. Some people have gone on to become corporate trainers, training specialists, training managers. Now, where we expect people to go. So for the learning experience design position, we expect people to either stay in current instructional design roles or to move into many of the roles that I just mentioned. Many of them are applicable to learning experience design. In AI leadership, and this is something we're actively investigating, right? What are the roles that we currently see and expect to see in the next 3 to 5, 7 years? So there is some prediction making going on here, right? But here in the AI in leadership specialization, we expect people to go into positions like chief academic AI officer or director of AI integration or academic AI integration. We expect people to become AI literacy coordinators, potentially in school systems, but also in industry as well. People to to take leadership positions in AI integration in industries. And one of the things that I would encourage all of you to do right now, if you're not already doing this, is to be searching for job descriptions, right? That are in the learning engineering space, that are in the AI leadership space, and seeing where those positions are coming up. At the moment, it's not always easy to find jobs with the title AI leader or AI engineer. It is easy to find many, many job descriptions, however, that include responsibilities that are associated with our program learning objectives, right? So things like AI integration, things like learning academics, learning analytics, and continuous improvement practices. So the reason that I suggest that is so that you give yourself a very good idea of what the expectations are that industry and higher education are publishing in positions so that you have a sense of the skills and competencies and dispositions you need to be developing, and so that you can look across different academic programs to ensure that you will have opportunities to develop those competencies in academic programs. So if you're not already doing that, I strongly encourage you to do that. You can go to places like the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, which has just an incredible database of different careers, different jobs, with very detailed lists of job responsibilities. And you can then make associations between those and academic programs. I'm not saying that specific job responsibilities are the only reasoning you're pursuing a graduate education. They likely are not. But they're a big reason. They're a big part of the reason that you're pursuing a graduate education. So certainly we are constantly monitoring, and by we, I mean as a school, we are constantly monitoring what is going on in different fields, industry, and sectors in jobs, careers, professions that are aligned with our academic programs, and doing work to ensure that our curricula are in alignment with those programs. So to go back to the original question for AI leadership and learning engineering, we do expect there to be really a wide range of applicable fields. Next year, the year after that, I will be able to provide even more concrete data than I have. Director of AI and Blended Learning. That's another job title that I have seen several times now that is directly applicable to work that's happening in this program. Director of Learning Analytics. Learning Analytics Specialist is another one. So there are many. I was a little bit meandering. Did I answer that?
Yeah, no, I think you did. Um, So, folks, we are here at the end of today's or this evening's webinar. I want to thank everyone for spending some time with us to learn more about the program and hopefully get some really good responses to some of the questions that you have. Feel free to reach out to us. You'll see my email address directly there. If you want to set up a one-on-one appointment with myself, I do have a calendar on our website, or just send us an email and I'll send you the link. We will be going on break next week. I believe I have like a few more spots on Wednesday for appointments. But if not, once we can come back from the holiday break, you'll see a full set of opening dates for the coming weeks going into December. But other than that, thanks everyone for attending, and stay engaged with us in future webinars. You'll get invites here as we go into the new year. And we hope to have the opportunity to see your applications here for the fall of 2026. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.